Dear audience, welcome to the show POWERchat. In today's episode, we are discussing about forest and climate change challenges in Nepal and at the global level. Joining us today is Dr. Pem Kandel, Forest and Climate Change Specialist, who is also serving as the Member Secretary at President Chure Program, which is also known as President Chure Tarai Madhesh Conservation Development Board. Please allow me to welcome him. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kandel.
Thank you very much.
How have you been?
Yeah, I'm well.
You have been long engaged in forest and climate change issues, both as a specialist and also contributing to the government of Nepal in policy contribution. How do you see the issues of climate change, global warming, and greenhouse gas emission? How these issues are understood at the public level, and what are the key challenges surrounded?
Thank you for a very appropriate question. Actually, climate change has become the greatest issue for the living planet due to the global warming and caused by greenhouse gas emission. So that is the key of the climate change. And the earth is warming. Average temperature rise to 1 degree Celsius since last pre-industrial era, 1870 to now. So this has a huge implication in the earth for the living planet. So global warming is the key cause of climate change caused by greenhouse gas emission.
Well, how is our forest affected by these all changes related to climate change or global warming?
Key issues is about what are the greenhouse gases. We have to understand. The basic is because greenhouse caused the global warming and that resulted the climate change. Then we have to understand the greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases are the carbon, methane, and forest. Forest has two functions. Forest absorbs the atmospheric carbon. Therefore, it mitigates the climate change. It reduces the greenhouse gas in the atmosphere and also emit the greenhouse gases when it destroyed. So it has two relations. It absorbs the atmospheric carbon during photosynthesis process, during food making process, and emit when it destroyed. So forest mitigate climate change and also contribute to emit the greenhouse gases. So forest store carbon dioxide when it conserve, and when it emit the carbon dioxide when it destroyed. So greenhouse gases, main greenhouse gases is carbon. Therefore, forest has big contribution in both way.
How do you see the rate of forest area change throughout these all years?
If you look at the global forest trend today, forest comprises 30.6% of the total land of the earth. So this is the largest land cover, but the trend is decreasing. If we compare since last 25 years, forest was 33.6% in 1990s, and now it reduced to 30.6%. Means we lost the forest equivalent to South Africa. Forest is declining from the earth day by day.
Why so happening? What are the major reasons behind decline of the forest?
Yeah, main reason is land use change. Land use changing from forest to other land uses for agriculture and infrastructure development, use of forest for many ways, and also deforestation, land degradation are the key reason that forest is declining from the planet.
Don't you think that human beings can maintain the forest without disturbing forest? Are there any recommendations to the urban settlements?
Yeah, actually, first and foremost, we have to think about the land use policy and strategy, where we can stabilize urban area, industrial area, infrastructure. So that is the fundamental for conserving the land and forest cover. So afforestation, reforestation, and restoration of degraded land are the key strategy to restore the forest. So that is also happening. If you look at the global statistics, forest is increasing in many countries. For example, in China, in India, Vietnam, Philippines, in also Nepal. we are increasing forest in Nepal in extent and quality since last 25 years.
You mean that in the countries of Asia?
Yeah, two continent, mainly Asia and Europe, they are increasing forest, but huge amount of forest is decreasing in tropical area. You know, tropical area means Africa, South America. So they are also contributing lot of greenhouse gases due to deforestation. They are emitting lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere that resulted to global warming. So many countries, as I mentioned, are gaining forest area and many they are losing.
Well, Dr. Kandel, you mentioned two important issues. One, that due to policy issues,
Yeah.
There are problems around, and you also said that the countries like China and other, including Nepal, in Asian countries, there are some good attempts maintaining the forest.
Yeah.
How can the rest of the world learn from these initiatives?
Actually, there are number of policy issues, policy instrument set by United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It said that we have to maintain the forest to mitigate the climate change, to maintain this planet living. I mentioned that climate change has become the greatest issue of the living planet. Therefore, forest can be the instrument to reduce the greenhouse gas from atmosphere. Therefore, that kind of policy is working in many countries, and they are learning from the past, and they are starting to conserve forest, to restore the forest, and to enhance their forest area.
You briefly touched upon the interrelationship between global warming, climate change, and forest. These issues are discussed in large extent in many countries, including Nepal. But there is no common understanding about these issues. Could you also share us with your experience, the interlinks among these elements, climate change, global warming, and forest?
I think for most, we have to understand the greenhouse gases. Practically, if you see around that many agriculture field, they are using the plastic and asbestos sheet to maintain the temperature. So this practice, in the name of this practice, we name that carbon dioxide and other gases as greenhouse gases. So that structure can allow to coming radiation from the sun and then restrict to go back to the outside. That increase the temperature inside the greenhouse gas. So the role of carbon dioxide, methane, chlorofluorocarbon, and other gases, which are very in thin and tiny amount in the atmosphere, 0.1%, only 0.1% greenhouse gases are in the atmosphere. So their role is huge to maintain the temperature in the planet. They allow to come solar radiation, which is the principal source of energy, and to keep warm to this planet, and restrict to go back some energy that maintain the energy inside the planet. But the thickness of the greenhouse gas in the atmosphere is increased due to emission of carbon dioxide and other methane and other gases. So for example, from last 5,000 years, the carbon density in the atmosphere was below 300 part per million. But after industrial era, 1870 to 1950, this increased to 400 part per million. That means density of greenhouse gases has been increased, and it restricts to go back the energy to the space, and again increase the temperature inside the earth. As a result, after pre-industrial era, the average temperature rise by 1 degree in the planet. So that is the basic.
Do you think that these issues are well understood at the citizen level, public level? By climate change or global warming, most often in the countries like Nepal, people understand by there is some loss in the production
Yeah.
when it comes to
Yeah.
the agriculture products, and there is loss in the natural resources, for example, water sources. So you're talking about many technical issues, especially that of the greenhouse emissions.
Yes.
What are your suggestions for countries like Nepal or the Southeast Asian region? How can these issues be, injected to people from their childhood?
Maybe people well understood about the climate change, global warming and climate change, but the mechanism, and technicality about the issue have not been well realized. So this is very technical, very academic issues. We have to understand about the earth, energy budget, and atmospheric composition, and solar radiation reflection. These are the very technical and very science related issues, so everybody does not understand the basic, but still they realize that because of climate change, number of implications have been revealed in the planet. So that is good things, and we have to more keep aware to the people that climate change has a very big issue, and we have to also communicate them that about the driving forces. What is the reason why climate change have been revealed in the planet? So that is how we can move forward.
What is healthy forest, and do you think that has been maintained in this globe?
I think maybe I have to again repeat the issue about forest and climate change. Again, forest absorb the atmospheric carbon, which is very harmful. So that is the big advantage of forest, and store inside. So living entity absorb during photosynthesis, absorb atmospheric carbon and release oxygen. Forest, the key function of forest is that. So that is the big. And if you destroy the forest, if you burn the forest, and also if you degrade the quality of the forest, it emits the carbon to the atmosphere. Therefore, healthy forest can absorb more atmospheric carbon and store. That has huge implication to mitigate the climate change, and also provide the many goods and services, like it maintain the water, keep the watershed, and maintain many biodiversity, number of animal and plant. So healthy forest. So the goal of forestry is sustainable forest management that facilitate to maintain the healthy forest, which has big implication to regulate the goods and service provided by the forest.
Is that maintained in countries like ours?
I mentioned that Nepal's forestry has been increased in quality and quantity since last 25 years due to community forestry policy, strategy and plan, good policy. We have very good policy because people are conserving, protecting, using the government forest. So they are taking their ownership. That is why forest is increasing. There are other reasons also because of societal change, migration, urbanization. Rural area are population is very decreasing in the rural area. That is why forest is increasing in Nepal, and we are starting the sustainable
forest is increasing in the rural areas where people are living those places.
Exactly.
But what about the urban centers?
Yes, that is also a good question. Forest is increasing in mountain and high mountain. Still in Tarai and Siwalik, where I am working, is decreasing. So overall, national forest is increasing in Nepal, and I mentioned about the region, and we still need to work in urban area. Urban greenery is very important, So that is the area of intervention for further intervention.
Any reflections from your current work? You're working with the President Chure program as well, and any efforts going in and around protecting forest, and also moving towards development, especially in the urban centers?
I work in President Chure program, which look after the Siwalik, Tarai and Madhesh. So that is a different story. For example, Siwalik, why we are conserving Siwalik? Siwalik is very fragile mountain, young mountain, during formation of Himalaya, Shivalik was formed very late. Therefore, naturally this is very fragile. Due to the human activities, the sensitivity has further further increased. Landslide, flood, you might notice the flood in Tarai and Bhabar region in these years also, landslide in the north. So the key objective of my program is to conserve land and water and mitigate the climate, adapt the climate change. So climate change has most affected in land and water. Land and water has big impact of climate change, and mountain has even more impact. Sensitive mountain has even more impact of climate change. Sensitive landscape and community has very big implication of climate change. Therefore, we are conserving this land, focusing land and water. To conserve land and water, you need to keep intact the greenery, forest, vegetation, so that it can hold water and conserve water, so that it can utilize for different purpose. But the result, we are also doing many things, but still we have to work more to reduce the flood and landslide.
What are your suggestions for the urban centers as a policy expert? Can we proceed towards development, without destroying our forest? And how can we maintain the greenery in the cities like Kathmandu?
The key strategy could be sustainable development in broader perspective, striking balance between environmental conservation and development. That is the key roadmap that United Nations has also set for 2030. So that means we have to think about the maintaining our environment, forest, and many other things, while developing urbanization, infrastructure, and other things. So that is the key scope in Nepal, in urban area, because we have very expensive land. There is no space for plantation. So urban planning is the basic step to maintain the sustainable development in urban area.
How do you analyze the key environmental threats at the global level, basically resulting from deforestation or forest use?
Actually, climate change is the key issue for the planet, for the living planet, and that resulted many impact. Loss of biodiversity, landslide, flood, erratic erosion, rainfall, drought, tsunami, you might notice, wildfire. Recently it was happening in California, tsunami in Zimbabwe, So there are multiplier impact of climate change and very big risks even to survival of human beings if existing situation will continue, because Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, has said, let us not increase the Earth's temperature and maintain below 1.5 degree to maintain the planet living. So that is big threat. If you increase the temperature, it has number of implication in weather and climate change. Then we have to think to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. Forest and agriculture alone emit 24% of total carbon of the atmosphere. That is huge. Forest alone contribute 12 to 17% of greenhouse gas emission. That is huge. So there is scope to reduce the deforestation and land use change, and scope to increase the forest by reforestation, afforestation, and other strategy. So we can do it in urban area, rural area, mountain, fringe area, and private land also. So the strategy should go in this way.
You mentioned many, interesting UN initiatives and government initiatives around. Despite these all initiatives, why there are problems associated with climate change and environmental threats?
If you ask me which countries must emit the greenhouse gases, carbon, China alone comprises 30% of total emission because of booming economy. For development, you need energy that emit the carbon and other gases, and that increase the global warming. So developing and developed country should think more on this. Therefore, wider collaboration, national, regional and global level collaboration is very much important, because this is very cross-cutting issues. No single institution, entity, community, country, region can handle these issues. Therefore, wider collaboration is very much important to handle these huge issues. They have to invest more in infrastructure, in climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, reduce the emission. The strategy should set to minimize the carbon emission. So things are going in that line also. United Nations is leading in this part, therefore setting sustainable development.
How can we reduce the gap in relations to the knowledge sharing about these issues?
Actually, capacity building is big issues, because you rightly mentioned that climate change issue is very cross-cutting, in many cases very technical. Therefore, capacity building at different scale, academic level, research level, public level, community level, professional level and institutional level, and also individual level. So this should be trickled down from academic level to implementation level. So therefore, capacity building should be huge component within that collaboration I already mentioned.
Okay, we discussed most of the issues at the global level. Could you also share us with the Nepalese initiatives, that have been taken place for so long time, addressing climate change very quickly?
Exactly. Nepal is a member of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Therefore, Nepal has moral obligation to implement the policy set by United Nations. We have climate change policy and strategy and plan in place, and we are also improving those kind of policy and legal instrument. So we have institution, Forest and Environment Ministry, and we are also we have National Planning Commission that set the goal for sustainable development. So we have all the mechanism in place, but capacity is very much important. Capacity in the sense of financial, technical and other capacity should be enhanced.
How can external stakeholders, including UN or civil society, support these initiatives very quickly?
Yeah, somehow they are also supporting in financial and technical support. That is very good, but still there is a gap. The issue is huge in Nepal. For example, disaster, landslide, flood. Average 500 people died every year due to flood and landslide. Every year. So Nepal is very sensitive to climate change. Rank in 4th place.
Globally?
Globally. Nepal is very sensitive to earthquake. In 11th position, and flood, landslide. So Nepal is very vulnerable country, because this is very mountainous country. Impact of climate change is huge in this country, and very people are very vulnerable, very sensitive, because of least developed country. They have no capacity to adopt this kind of risk. Therefore, we do need more support from global community, because Nepal contribute very less in the greenhouse gases. We are emitting very less greenhouse gases, carbon. We are increasing forest. So they have to pay for that.
Well, Dr. Kandel, there are many interesting issues, but we are coming to the end of the show.
Thank you
so much. Do you have to share to our audience anything that I have left to ask you?
Thank you very much. This issue, forest is a very important component to mitigate the climate change and climate adaptation. So Nepal is increasing forest. Globally, still forest is negatively contributing for climate change. So we have to reduce the gap. We have to increase the atmospheric carbon absorption by increasing the forest, and land use change is very big in global level, but Nepal is emitting very less carbon, therefore Nepal is vulnerable, and Nepal need to work more with global community in many way. Capacity development is very important for Nepal, and research and development is very much invaluable to the policymaker for making evidence-based decision. So therefore we have to focus on those areas. Nepal is doing well in this area, and my institution is also working on land and soil conservation, so that is also big achievement made by Nepal.
Well, Dr. Kandel, a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Dear audience, time now to wrap up the show. Keep watching us. See you next week. Namaste.